Accumulation in the blood of all workers tested. Toxic properties currently unknown. This memorandum was written in 1961. The company that wrote it did not report its findings to any regulator for 40 years. The chemical described in that memo is called PFOA, perfluorooctanoic acid. DuPont called it C8. It does not break down. In 1961, DuPont was manufacturing PFOA at its Washington Works plant in Parkersburg, West Virginia. The plant discharged into the Ohio River. In 1961, the same year that Memo was written, DuPont was publicly describing C8 as essential to producing Teflon, safe and contained in manufacturing. The viewer watching this already holds the 1961 memo. Every public statement DuPont made for the next 4 decades must be read against that document. This is the structure of what follows. First, what DuPont said, then what their documents show they already knew. That 1961 document was read by at least 14 named DuPont executives according to the Leach versus DuPont discovery record. Then, after a pause, 14 executives, 1 document, 40 years. DuPont began manufacturing PFOA at Washington Works in 1951. The plant sits in Wood County, West Virginia, population approximately 86,000. PFOA was DuPont's processing agent for Teflon, Teflon-coated cookware, industrial components, and military equipment. Revenue from Teflon ran into billions. DuPont's Washington Works plant received EPA approval to discharge C8 into the Ohio River through standard industrial waste permits granted in the 1950s. The legitimizing detail. In 1951, PFOA was not regulated under any federal environmental statute. DuPont had no legal obligation to disclose internal toxicology findings, but by 1984, DuPont's own scientists documented that C8 caused cancer in laboratory rats. The Toxic Substances Control Act was now 8 years old. DuPont did not report the 1984 carcinogenicity findings to the EPA. According to discovery documents, the internal recommendation was to continue monitoring and not disclose. By 1991, DuPont scientists had documented that C8 was accumulating in the blood of Parkersburg area residents living near the plant. DuPont did not report the community blood contamination findings to the EPA. The Toxic Substances Control Act had been law for 15 years. The fraud mechanism had 3 documented operational components, each producing its own trail of internal documents that would later reach federal court. Component 1, regulatory non-disclosure. According to discovery documents, DuPont maintained an internal classification system that routed C8 toxicology findings away from mandatory EPA reporting channels. Component 2, scientific literature management. According to the court record, DuPont funded external scientific studies on C8 safety while maintaining separate internal findings contradicting those studies. According to the Leach versus DuPont discovery record, an internal DuPont memo described the company's goal as keeping C8 below the threshold that would trigger regulatory action. Component 3, community information suppression. Residents living near the Washington Works plant were not informed of C8 contamination findings documented in DuPont's own blood testing data. All 3 components operated simultaneously from the late 1980s through 2001, each producing documentary evidence now in the public court record of Wood County, West Virginia. In 1998, a farmer named Wilbur Earl Tennant contacted a Cincinnati attorney named Robert Bilott. His cattle were dying. He had DuPont as a neighbor. Robert Bilott was a corporate defense attorney who specialized in representing chemical companies. He took Tennant's case because Bilott's grandmother had lived near the plant. Left. What DuPont said publicly. Clean water, safe manufacturing, no health risk, EPA compliant. Right. What their documents showed: 1961 internal memo, 1984 carcinogenicity study, 1991 community blood contamination, community not informed. Then, after 4 seconds of silence, that gap ran for 40 years. The concealment required a second architecture and designed to suppress the people and institutions beginning to ask questions about C8 and the Washington Works plant. Concealment Tactic 1: Regulatory deflection. According to discovery documents, DuPont's legal team prepared responses to EPA inquiries that disclosed partial data while withholding the complete internal record. According to the discovery record, DuPont's legal responses to EPA inquiries in the 1990s consistently omitted references to the 1961 memorandum and the 1984 carcinogenicity study. Concealment Tactic 2: Scientific credibility management. According to discovery documents, DuPont funded external research designed to establish acceptable exposure levels for C8 based on favorable study parameters. Concealment Tactic 3: Community narrative management. According to the Leach discovery record, DuPont's community relations team maintained a presence in the Parkersburg area specifically to monitor and manage community concerns about the plant. DuPont was also a major employer in Wood County. The plant employed approximately 2,000 workers. The economic relationship was itself a form of community information management. When Wilbur Earl Tennant began filing complaints about his dying cattle in the late 1990s, according to the discovery record, DuPont's legal team was already preparing a response strategy. Robert Bilott's initial document request to DuPont produced 110,000 pages of internal company records. DuPont complied with the discovery request. 110,000 pages. They sent them willingly. Within the 110,000 pages, Bilott found the 1961 internal memo, the same document this video opened with. He found it had never been disclosed to any regulator. The concealment was deliberate and structured. According to the Leach discovery record, DuPont's internal communications used the phrase acceptable risk in reference to C8 community exposure levels. All three concealment tactics, regulatory deflection, scientific management, community narrative control, operated simultaneously for over a decade before Bilott's discovery request. 3 concealment tactics, 40 years. The next section of this video documents what the mechanism produced when it reached specific people in the Parkersburg area. In 2001, Bilott filed a class action lawsuit on behalf of approximately 70,000 Parkersburg area residents who had consumed C8 contaminated drinking water from their taps. As part of the class action settlement negotiations, DuPont agreed to fund the C8 Health Project, an independent scientific study of 69,000 Parkersburg area residents. Among the 69,000 participants in the C8 Health Project was a Parkersburg resident who had been drinking water from her home tap for over 30 years. According to the C8 Science Panel's 2012 final report, researchers established a probable link between C8 exposure and 6 specific diseases, including kidney cancer, testicular cancer, and thyroid disease. The C8 Health Project enrolled 69,000 named Parkersburg area residents. The C8 science panel estimated that all had probable C8 exposure through their drinking water. Among the 69,000 was a Parkersburg resident, her case documented in the C8 Health Project database, who had lived within the study area her entire adult life. According to the C8 Health Project documentation, she had consumed drinking water from the Parkersburg municipal water system, which drew from the contaminated dry run landfill watershed for over 30 years, every day. Same tap. Her case, along with thousands of similar cases, is documented in the C8 Health Project database, which the C8 Science Panel used to establish its probable link findings. According to the C8 Science Panel's findings, the probable link diseases were associated with long-term exposure to C8 through contaminated drinking water at the levels documented in the Parkersburg water supply. She did not know the chemical was in her water. The 1961 DuPont Memo, documenting the toxicological findings, was in a corporate archive that would not reach a court for another 40 years. The C8 Health Project found that C8 contamination affected not one community but 6 water districts in the Parkersburg area, each drawing from the same contaminated source. Each of the 69,000 participants trusted their water. Each consumed C8 without knowledge of the 1961 internal memo documenting its accumulation in human blood. DuPont documented C8's blood accumulation in 1961 and its carcinogenicity in 1984. 69,000 people in their water district drank it for decades. Here is what DuPont considered accountability. In 2001, Robert Bilott filed the Leach versus DuPont class action on behalf of approximately 70,000 plaintiffs. In 2004, DuPont agreed to a settlement that included funding the C8 Health Project. The C8 Science Panel completed its work in 2012. It established probable links between C8 and 6 diseases. DuPont's own funding had produced the scientific record of the harm its chemical caused. Following the C8 Science Panel's 2012 findings, over 3,500 individual personal injury lawsuits were filed against DuPont by plaintiffs with probable link conditions, according to court records. DuPont's first public response to the personal injury litigation was to contest the C8 Science Panel's methodology, the same methodology DuPont had agreed to in the Leach settlement. The first personal injury trial, Bartlett versus DuPont, resulted in a jury verdict of $1.6 million for the plaintiff, a West Virginia man with testicular cancer linked to C8 exposure, according to court records. One verdict, 3,500 more waiting. In 2017, DuPont and its spin-off company Chemours agreed to a combined settlement of approximately $671 million to resolve the personal injury cases, according to the settlement agreement. According to DuPont's own financial records, DuPont earned approximately $35 billion in annual revenue in its last full year as an independent company before merger in 2017. Left. The statement. DuPont's 2001 public position on C8 safety, the voluntary withdrawal framing, the responsible corporate citizen language. Right. The record. 1961 memo. 1984 carcinogenicity study. 1991 community blood contamination. Acceptable risk, internal language, 40 years. That gap ran for 40 years, from 1961 to 2001, through at least 3 separate internal documentation events that the documents show were not reported to regulators. DuPont settled the personal injury cases in 2017 without admitting wrongdoing. The settlement did not include any finding that DuPont had violated any law according to the settlement terms. No individual DuPont executive was criminally charged in connection with the C8 concealment documented in the Leach versus DuPont discovery record according to the public criminal docket. In 2005, the EPA issued an administrative order finding that DuPont had violated the Toxic Substances Control Act by failing to report C8 toxicity data. DuPont paid a civil penalty of $16.5 million, the largest civil administrative penalty in EPA history at that time. $16.5 million civil penalty, no admission of wrongdoing, no individual criminal charges. The 1961 memo sat in a corporate archive for 40 years before any regulator saw it. The people whose names are in the Leach discovery record, the executives documented as having received the 1961 memo, faced no individual criminal consequences per the public record. The Toxic Substances Control Act, the law that created the disclosure obligation DuPont avoided, did not grant the EPA authority to require pre-market testing of existing chemicals when it was enacted in 1976. Then, the law had a door open. In 2016, Congress passed the Frank R. Lautenberg Chemical Safety for the 21st Century Act, amending TSCA to require EPA to evaluate existing chemicals. It exists today. PFAS is still being evaluated. What made the DuPont C8 concealment possible was not one corrupt scientist or one corrupt executive. The documents show it was 3 structural conditions that predated DuPont and outlasted DuPont. Structural condition 1, a regulatory architecture that assigned disclosure obligations to the company holding the internal data, with no independent verification mechanism. Structural condition 2, a civil penalty ceiling that, at the time of DuPont's 2005 EPA violation finding, made financial penalties commercially manageable relative to the revenue the concealment protected. Both structural conditions existed before the 1961 DuPont memo was written. Both conditions remain present in modified form today under the amended TSCA and current EPA civil penalty structure. The 1961 DuPont internal memo, the Leach versus DuPont discovery record, and the C8 Science Panel final report are all in the public record. They have always been there for anyone who looked. The 1961 DuPont internal memo documented C8 blood accumulation in workers. The EPA received this information in 2000, 39 years later. The question no official body has answered is this. That question has no official answer. This channel exists to pursue it, through the documents that institutions filed and assumed would remain invisible. Every video on this channel is built from court records and government documents. Subscribe. We read the ones they filed and assumed would stay invisible.